There is no middle class anymore. Middle income households making up to 125K are getting squeezed out of the GTA. I love people telling me that because I'm a teacher, I'm rich. Yet so many teachers that I know, even people who are at the top of the pay scale, are struggling to make ends meet. Because if you want to teach in the GTA like I do, you need to afford to live in the GTA. And most people, regardless of their salaries, can no longer afford to live in the GTA, with the working middle class now being called the invisible poor. And this report calls people making between $40,000 and $125,000 middle class. If you're making $40,000, you're not middle class. I don't know how you would be surviving off of that income. I don't know where you would rent on that income in the GTA. I don't know how you would be able to afford to have a kid on that kind of income. We are not allowing people to live or survive. They're definitely not thriving. We are barely surviving in some people's scenarios. And while the median household income in Toronto is about $100,000, our salaries in the GTA in Canada are not keeping up with rising housing costs. Productivity in Canada keeps going up. CEO pay keeps going up. The wealthiest wealth share, yeah, kiddo, you're right, keeps going up. But our salaries, on average, across Canada are not going up, and definitely not going up more than inflation, or barely even keeping up with inflation if they're even doing that. Toronto's price to income ratio is 12 times the median household income. You would have to dedicate 77% of your salary to mortgage payments to own a home in Toronto if you could even afford the down payment to begin with. If we want to start addressing the cost of living crisis seriously, what we need to start doing is to start looking at our system and figuring out where we can stop focusing on having a profit motive. Housing is a human right. We need to be able to live in places so that we can then work and be part of the capital machine. Capitalism's great until you start running out of other people's money. Because when nobody can afford to live in Toronto, what's going to happen to housing then? When nobody can afford food and rent, they're definitely not going to afford other goods. And if they're not buying other goods, what happens? The companies that make those goods start to sell less. Maybe they fire some employees. Maybe they go out of business. Because the economy is only strong when the individuals, each and every one of them, can afford not only to survive, but to thrive. We are not letting people thrive anymore. Build government subsidized housing. You want those prefab homes? Let's do them. But let's make them actually affordable. Let's make the government own a bunch of them. Let's do rent-to-own systems. Because, kiddo, I don't think you're going to be able to afford a home, no matter how much money I accrue, no matter how much I try to help you. At this rate, I don't think we can do it, no matter how cute you look.